I never thought I'd write a post like this. But after everything that happened this week, I just don't know where I stand. I, 28, have always been the quiet one in my family, the one who avoids drama and keeps my head down. My older sister Emily, 32F on the other hand, has always been the center of attention. She is loud, confident, and everyone seems to gravitate towards her. Growing up, I tried to ignore it. But over the years, her behavior started to affect my life more than I realized. It all came to a head last month. My parents live about an hour away, and I usually visit every weekend. Emily moved back home after a bad breakup, and suddenly the entire dynamic shifted. She started rearranging things in the house without asking, claiming that she knew better. She even went as far as to start managing my schedule, telling me what I should do on weekends, which friends I should see, and even what career moves she thought were smart for me. At first, I laughed it off, thinking it was just her being bossy. But over time, it felt like I was losing control over my own life. The breaking point came last Friday. My parents had left town for a few days, and Emily decided to host a family movie night in the living room. That alone wouldn't have bothered me, but she literally threw out my old gaming setup, my favorite snacks, and even moved my personal things into storage without asking. When I confronted her, she looked at me like I was overreacting. She said, "Come on. It's just stuff. You're being dramatic." I'm trying to help. I was stunned. How could she think this was acceptable? And that's when I snapped. By the time my parents got home, I had already taken back my stuff and told her point blank that I wasn't going to let her run my life anymore. Now my sister is texting everyone in the family, saying I'm overreacting, being rude, and ruining our relationship. My friends tell me I was justified, but part of me feels guilty. I know I could be handled it more calmly, but I also feel like my boundaries were completely ignored. So Reddit AITA for standing up to my sister after she essentially took over my personal space and tried to control my life. After the confrontation, the house felt tense, like walking into a war zone. My parents returned the next day, and it was immediately obvious that something had happened. Emily greeted them with a wide smile, acting like nothing was wrong, while I tried to keep my distance. My mom noticed my sour mood and asked what was going on. I explained the situation calmly, detailing how Emily had thrown out my things and attempted to take my life. To my surprise, my parents didn't take my side. Right away, my dad said she is just trying to help. Maybe you're overreacting. My mom, always the peacemaker, added, "We just don't want more tension." I felt a rush of anger and frustration. Over the years, I had always tried to avoid family drama, but now it seemed like my feelings didn't matter at all. Later that evening, Emily cornered me in the kitchen. She looked calm, almost smug, and said, "You really made a scene. Everyone is upset now. I was only trying to make things better for you." I wanted to yell, but I held back, instead saying this isn't about making things better. It's about respecting me. You can't just take over my life. She rolled her eyes and walked away, muttering something about how I never appreciate anything. The tension didn't stop there. At dinner, my parents tried to steer the conversation to neutral topics, but Emily kept bringing up things I had supposedly done wrong in the past, comparing me to her achievements and framing me as the problem. It was exhausting. By the end of the night, I was mentally drained, realizing that my own family now seemed to be on her side, or at least unwilling to confront her behavior. I started questioning myself. Was I really overreacting? Am I too sensitive? Has my sister truly crossed a line that I finally can't ignore? I wanted to stay calm, but each time I saw her, a mix of anger and disbelief bubbled up inside me. For the first time in years, I felt like an outsider in my own family. Reddit, it's only been a week since the confrontation, but the tension hasn't eased. Emily is texting my parents constantly, telling them I'm being unreasonable. I'm stuck, wondering if standing up for myself was right, or if I just escalated a situation that could have been handled more quietly. So AITA for refusing to let my sister control my life, even if it means creating family tension. The following week was brutal. I thought the fight would cool down after a few days, but instead, Emily doubled down. She started twisting the story to make herself look like the victim. Suddenly, family members I hadn't spoken to in months began texting me saying things like, "You should apologize to your sister. She has been through so much." Apparently, Emily told everyone that I yelled at her, called her names, and kicked her out of the house, which wasn't true. I didn't even raise my voice. Until she threw away my belongings. Still, no one wanted to hear my side. My mom told me her sister is fragile right now. She just went through a breakup. You need to be patient. It felt like I was being punished simply because I didn't let her walk all over me. What made it worse was that Emily started posting vague quotes on social media. Things like family can hurt you the most, and when you try to help, some people only see hate. Every post got dozens of supportive comments from mutual friends. People were messaging her things like, "You deserve better," or "Ignore toxic people." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She was painting me as toxic. I tried to stay calm, but one night I snapped again. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, laughing at comments on one of her posts. I told her, "You're making me look like an abuser." "Why are you lying?" She looked up at me with that same smug smile and said, "I'm not lying. I'm just sharing how I feel. Sorry if the truth hurts." That line broke something inside me. It wasn't just her controlling behavior anymore. It was the fact that she was rewriting the story, turning me into a villain. My parents once again stayed silent. They told me to let it go. That family shooting tea fight online. But how could I let it go when my reputation was being destroyed publicly? That night, I packed a small bag and left the house. I couldn't stand the suffocating tension anymore. I went to stay with a friend in the city. For the first time in weeks, I finally slept peacefully. But I also knew this wasn't over. Emily wouldn't just stop. And I was right the next morning. I woke up to a flood of texts from my mom. "Where are you, Emily S. crying? You really hurt her feelings." I stared at my phone, wondering how standing up for myself turned into being the villain of my own family's story. So Reddit was leaving the house the wrong move. Was I an asshole for walking away? Instead of trying to fix things after I left home, I tried to focus on work and rebuild my peace. My friend Mark let me crash on his couch, and for a few days, I almost felt normal again. But the peace didn't last long. One evening, Mark walked into the living room holding his phone, his expression tense. "Dude, did you see what your sister posted?" I grabbed his phone, and my stomach dropped. Emily had uploaded a long Facebook post, public of course, where she said she'd been emotionally abused by a family member who refused to support her during her hardest time. She didn't name me directly, but every single person in our circle knew exactly who she was talking about. The comments were brutal. People were saying things like, "Cut him off for good, and no one deserves that kind of cruelty." I felt physically sick. It wasn't just gossip anymore. She was destroying my reputation in real time. I knew I had to talk to her, so I called. She didn't answer. I texted her. "This has gone too far. You're lying about me." 10 minutes later, she finally replied, "You did this to yourself. Actions have consequences." That was it. Cold. Final. But something about that phrase, "actions have consequences," stuck with me. It sounded rehearsed, almost like she was hiding something bigger. So I decided to dig a little. I called my parents to ask if she was still staying at their place. My dad hesitated before answering. She asked, moving out soon?" She said she has found a place nearby. That surprised me. Emily had been broke since her breakup. She couldn't even afford rent when she moved back home. Later that night, my mom called me separately, whispering like she didn't want my dad to hear. "Listen," she said. "I didn't want to tell you this, but Emily's been asking your dad for money, thousands of dollars. She said it's for therapy, but I don't think that is true." My mind started connecting dots. Emily has sudden fragile behavior. A victim posts the emotional manipulation. It wasn't even random. She was building a narrative to gain sympathy and maybe even financial support. The next morning, I went through her social media again and noticed something strange. A GoFund link in her Instagram bio. The title read, "Recovering from Emotional Trauma. Trying to rebuild my life." It had already raised over $3,000. My heart sank. She was literally using me as the villain in her public sob story for money. I sat there staring at the screen, torn between anger and heartbreak. Part of me wanted to expose her immediately. Another part of me, maybe the tired family loyal part, still wanted to believe there was a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew the truth. Emily wasn't just manipulating me. She was exploiting me, so now I'm wondering, should I confront her publicly, or keep quiet and let her destroy my name to save her own? I spent the next few days in shock, staring at that GoFund page like it was a bad dream. The description said she'd been cut off by her family after years of emotional abuse. It felt real. She was talking about me, her own brother, the same person who used to fix her car, pay her phone bill when she was broke, and listen to her cry at 2 a.m. after every breakup. I knew I couldn't let it slide anymore. I started screenshotting everything, her posts, the comments, even her messages to me. I also reached out to one of our cousins who had donated to her fundraiser. I didn't want to drag anyone into drama, but I needed to know what she'd been saying behind my back. The cousin hesitated at first, then finally said she told everyone. "You kicked her out of the house and threatened her. She said you made her afraid to live with you." My jaw literally dropped. Threatened her? It was beyond manipulation. That was character assassination. I asked him if he still had the messages, and he sent me screenshots. There it was in black and white. Emily telling people she escaped an emotionally unsafe environment. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. I called my parents, determined to show them the truth. My mom answered, sounding exhausted. When I explained what I'd found, she went silent for a moment before whispering, "I wish you hadn't dug into this." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Lying about me?" She asked not well. Mom said finally, "She needs help if you expose her. Just let it go." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You want me to let her ruin my name and scam people for money?" My dad got on the phone then, his tone stern. "You're making this worse, son." "Just stay out of it." I hung up. shaking with anger. For years I'd been the quiet one, the peacemaker, the guy who avoided fights to keep the family together. But where did that get me? Labeled as an abuser abandoned by my parents, and watching my sister profit off my silence. That night I made a decision. I was done staying quiet. I created a private folder with all the screenshots and messages, every piece of evidence I had. If Emily wanted to make this public, fine. I could play that game too. But before I could decide how to use it, something unexpected happened. The next morning I got an email from my boss. The subject line read, "We need to talk." Apparently, someone had emailed my workplace anonymously, claiming I had a history of harassing women and emotionally abusing family members. And I didn't need to guess who sent it. When I opened that email from HR, my heart started pounding so hard I could barely breathe. We received a complaint from an anonymous source alleging inappropriate behavior and emotional misconduct. "We're placing you on temporary leave while we investigate." I sat frozen, staring at the screen. My hands were shaking. My job wasn't just a paycheck. It was the one part of my life I was proud of, the thing that had always been mine. And now it was slipping away because of my sister's lies. I called my boss right away, trying to explain that it was all a smear campaign. He sounded sympathetic, but cautious. "Look, I don't know what is going on in your personal life, but this came with screenshots of posts and messages that don't look great," he said. I knew exactly what he meant. Emily's manipulative social media posts, twisted out of context. She de-orchestrated this. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling in Marcus' apartment, feeling my world collapse piece by piece. My sister hadn't just hurt me. She'd taken everything I built and burned it down, all while pretending to be the victim. By morning, I made my decision. If she wanted war, she'd get it. I opened my laptop, logged into my Facebook, and wrote a post I never thought I'd write. I included every screenshot, her GoFund, her manipulative texts, her fake posts, even the proof that she decontacted my workplace. I didn't use insults. I didn't rant. I just laid out the facts. And then I ended it with one line. "If you think silence is kindness, remember that silence is what lets abusers rewrite the truth." I hit post and sat back trembling. Within an hour, it blew up. People started commenting immediately. Some were shocked. Others apologized for believing her. A few die-hard supporters of hers accused me of publicly humiliating my sister. But for the first time, my side of the story was out there. Then something unexpected happened. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was my mom. Her voice was trembling. "Why would you do that?" she asked, devastated. "You've ruined her reputation." I laughed bitterly. "She ruined mine first, Mom." But before I could say more, my mom said something that froze me completely. "You don't understand. She didn't do this alone." There was a long pause. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Mom sighed shakily. "Your father helped her set up the fundraiser." I nearly dropped the phone. "What?" "He thought she needed the money to get back on her feet," she said. "He didn't know she was lying about you." Not at first. I just sat there in silence. My own father, the man who'd told me to stay out of it, had been involved the whole time. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just Emily's manipulation anymore. My family was part of it. After that phone call, I sat in complete silence for what felt like hours. My father, the man who raised me to believe in honesty and hard work, had helped fund a lie that destroyed my life. I kept replaying my mother's words in my head. Didn't he know she was lying? Not at first. That phrase haunted me, not at first. Which meant at some point, he did know. I decided to confront him directly. I drove to my parents' house that same night. It was almost midnight when I got there. The lights in the living room were still on, and I could see my father sitting in his armchair, watching TV like nothing was wrong. He looked surprised to see me. Just tired, I figured you'd come, he said, turning off the TV. Why? I asked. My voice was calm, but inside I was shaking. Why would you help her do this? He sighed and leaned back, rubbing his temples. You wouldn't, he understand. She needed money. Your sister was a mess after her breakup. She said she was in debt. So you helped her build a scam. I interrupted. He gave me a sharp look. Watch your tone. I thought it was temporary. She said she'd pay people back when she got back on her feet. Then it got out of hand. Out of hand, I said bitterly. She got me suspended from work. She destroyed my name online. You let her do that. He didn't, he answered. The silence was deafening. Finally, I asked, why didn't you stop her when you found out? He looked away, jaw tightening. Because I didn't want to lose her again. That sentence didn't make sense at first, until I remembered something I'd almost forgotten. Years ago, Emily had disappeared for nearly 6 months after a massive fight with my dad. Nobody in the family ever talked about what happened. They just said she'd gone through a rough time. I took a step closer. What do you mean, lose her again? He hesitated, then muttered. Your sister has something on me. Something I can't let get out. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? He looked me in the eye. She found out about a business deal I made years ago. Something that could ruin us if it came out. She threatened to expose it unless I helped her. I felt sick. So you helped her destroy me to protect yourself. He finally met my eyes. It's not that simple. But it was exactly that simple. I left the house without saying another word. My own father had sold me out to protect his reputation. My sister had manipulated the entire family, and I was standing completely alone. When I got back to Mark's place, I sat on the couch in the dark, shaking. I realized something terrifying. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that my sister wasn't acting out of emotion anymore. This wasn't chaos. It was strategy. And I had no idea what her endgame was. That I didn't sleep that night. My father's confession kept replaying in my mind like a looping nightmare. She found out about a business deal. Something that could ruin us if it came out. What kind of deal could make him betray his own son? The next morning I called my mom again. She sounded hesitant, like she already knew what I was going to ask. Mom, I said quietly, what did Emily find out about Dad? She was silent for a long time. Then she said, you need to drop this. I can't, I said. She is destroying me. I need to understand why. Another pause, and then she whispered, it's not just about money, sweetheart. It's about the company. I frowned. What company? She exhaled shakily. You know, that small construction firm your dad invested years ago, the one he said went bankrupt. Yeah, didn't he go bankrupt? She said, he used it to move money under a different name, money that wasn't his to move. I froze. You mean? Yes, she said softly. He embezzled from the company he worked for. Emily found the bank records years later when she was helping him with taxes. She threatened to tell his old partners unless he helped her. I just sat there stunned. My father, the man who always lectured me about honesty, responsibility, doing the right thing, had been a thief. And my sister had been holding that secret like a loaded gun. I asked how long has she been blackmailing him. Since she moved back home, my mom said she asked for money to keep quiet. And he gave it to her. But when she realized how much control she had, she started pushing further. Your dad thought if he just gave her what she wanted, it would stop it, hadn't he stopped? It had escalated, and I was collateral damage. I hung up the phone and just sat there, trying to process it all. Emily wasn't just manipulative, she was strategic. She doused my father as guilt to fund her own chaos, turning the family against me so nobody would question her behavior. But then something hit me. If Emily had proof of the embezzlement, and my dad had paid her off, there had to be a paper trail. Transfers, emails, documents. I needed that evidence. If I could expose the truth, I could not only clear my name, but show everyone who Emily really was. So I called my friend Mark. He worked in cybersecurity and owed me a few favors. I told him everything, and though he looked horrified, he agreed to help me dig. If your dad really moved that money through a fake business, he said, they're LLB records. People like him always think deleting emails makes them safe. For the first time in weeks, I felt something new purpose. But what I didn't know yet was that digging into Emily's secret would uncover something far worse than I expected. Because some lies don't just protect reputations, they protect crimes. Mark came over that evening with his laptop and a look of grim determination. He wasn't just curious anymore, he was invested. He'd seen what Emily had done online and called it next-level sociopathy. We started by checking public records for the old construction firm my dad supposedly invested in. It took hours of digging, but eventually, Mark found something odd. The company hadn't even gone bankrupt at all. It had simply been dissolved, and another company had been opened 6 months later with a nearly identical name under a different owner. The new owner, Emily Carter. My sister, I felt my blood run cold. That is impossible, I said. She would be even in college back then. Mark pointed to the date. Not impossible if your dad set it up under her name to hide his trail. We kept digging, and it got worse. The fake company's records showed several transfers over a period of 3 years, small amounts that added up to nearly $400,000. Every single transaction had come from my father's employer's accounts, and each transfer had been approved by an internal sign-off system that required 2 people. One of those people was my dad. The other was listed under the initials EC. I stared at the screen. That can't be her. Mark zoomed in on the digital signature. It was hers. My sister hadn't just found out about the embezzlement. She helped him do it. My stomach turned. The realization hit like a gut punch. She wasn't blackmailing him out of revenge or leverage. She was protecting herself. If the truth came out, they'd both go down. I sat back, trying to catch my breath. She is not the victim, I whispered. She is his partner. Mark nodded grimly. That GoFund, the manipulation, it's all smoke. She is trying to bury any version of you that could expose her if you look like the unstable one. Nobody will believe you when you find this. I felt sick, furious. Betrayed all at once. My family wasn't just broken. It was built on crime and lies. Mark looked at me and said, "You need to take this to the authorities." This isn't family drama anymore. It's fraud. But part of me hesitated. Turning them in meant destroying what little was left of my family. My father could go to prison. My sister, too. My mother would lose everything. I rubbed my face, trembling. If I report this, there is no going back. Mark looked me dead in the eyes. There is nothing to go back to. That line stuck with me. I copied all the files to a flash drive. Every document, every bank transfer. Every email. Evidence of everything. But before I could even decide my next step, my phone buzzed. A new message from Emily. I know what you're doing. Stop before you regret it. My heart stopped. She knew that when I saw that message from Emily. I know what you're doing. Stop before you regret it. My entire body went cold. Mark glanced at me. She is bluffing. He said, doesn't he know how much you found? But I wasn't he so sure. My sister had proven she could twist, manipulate, and destroy without hesitation. If she realized I had proof of the fraud, she wouldn't he just sit quietly. She'd go nuclear. And that is exactly what she did. 2 hours later, my phone exploded with notifications. Emily had posted a long final message on Facebook. She accused me of hacking her accounts, stealing family money, and threatening her safety. She ended it with, if anything happens to me, everyone will know who is responsible. Hundreds of comments flooded in within minutes. Some people believed her, others finally began to doubt. But it didn't matter. She set the stage. If I made a move now, she painted as revenge. I sat there shaking, staring at the screen. And then I made my choice. Enough. I sent every piece of evidence to a lawyer, friend of Mark S., who handled financial crimes. Within 24 hours, he connected me with an investigator from the state's financial department. I turned over everything, the fake company filings, the transfers, the signatures, even the GoFund fraud. They took it seriously. 2 weeks later, it all came crashing down. My father and sister were both questioned. The investigators traced every account, every dollar. Emily tried to delete her online profiles, but it was too late. The digital paper trail was undeniable. My parents' house was searched. My dad's lawyer called me, begging me to be reasonable, to protect the family name. I told him the truth. There is no family left to protect. When the news finally broke, people were shocked. Headlines spread through local media. A respected businessman caught in a years-long embezzlement scheme, aided by his daughter. Emily's GoFund was shut down, and donors demanded refunds. Her entire facade of victimhood collapsed overnight. I didn't feel triumph. Not really. Just empty relief. My mom eventually called. She was crying. She said she didn't hate me, but she couldn't forgive me either. She said I destroyed everything. Maybe I had, but I hadn't built this mess. I just stopped pretending it wasn't there. As for Emily, she never reached out directly. But a week after the charges went public, I got one final text from an unknown number. You win. Hope it was worth it. I didn't reply. Months have passed since then. I got my job back after the investigation cleared my name. HR even apologized for believing the rumors. I've started therapy, trying to unpack what years of quiet tolerance did to me. Sometimes late at night, I still wonder if I could handle it differently, if I could save them somehow. But then I remember the look in my dad's eyes that night. when I realized he dissolved me out to protect himself. Some families break quietly. Mine exploded in fire and truth. And honestly, maybe that's the only way it could be ended.